Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm supposed to bring our meeting to order. The gavel has been struck. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third meeting of the Budget Advisory Committee. My name is Al Rolette, and I have the honor of serving as chair of the Budget Advisory Committee. This committee is committed to transparency, accountability in all of the commission's work, particularly in making our contracts and grants accessible to the public. Today, we will make every effort to develop tools and to demonstrate that we are developing tools that enhance transparency, including the creation of a dashboard to display local assistance allocations and a policy for a consistent process that ensures the full commission has the opportunity to review and consider committee recommendations for contracts. I look forward, as do all the members of this committee, to working together in advancing these goals and ensuring that our fiscal processes best serve the interests of every person in the state of California. Before we take roll, I'd like to allow or ask Vice Chair Contreras, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thanks, Chair Roulette. Yeah, just happy to be here with everybody. Looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Sandra, would you please take the roll?
I'm going to ask all commissioners online to maintain your camera on and to unmute yourselves to make the quorum roll call easier. Thank you. Commissioner Roulette.
Here.
Commissioner Contreras.
Here.
And I forgot to ask if to state whether or not you have anyone over the age of 18 in the room with you.
I'm the only adult in the room. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Bunch. Commissioner Carnevale.
Here.
Commissioner Gordon.
Here.
Commissioner Designee Polmano.
Here. No one is in the room but me.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilkes.
Here, no one's in the room but me.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you, Sandra. We are now moving, oops, my apologies. I got ahead of myself. Yep. We are now moving to agenda item 2, and that's morning announcements. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that we are still abiding by the Bagley-Keene laws for these meetings, but as part of our commitment to a deeper public involvement and comment, and open governance, all advisory committee meetings feature an enhanced public comment engagement designed to promote genuine dialogue between the committees and the communities. Today, the Legislative and External Affairs Advisory Committee convenes at 12:45, followed by the Program Advisory Committee at 3 p.m. Agenda and materials for these meetings are available at the Commission website at www.bhsoac.ca.gov. We hope this consistent schedule makes it easier for the public to remember, participate, and meaningfully contribute to our work. And we again appreciate you being here for the first meeting for the best committee that the Commission currently has. Thank you so very much. The Commission has approved a temporary merger of the Client and Family Leadership Committee, CFLC, and the Cultural and Linguistic Competence Committee, CLCC, into a new advisory body. The Client and Family Community Inclusion, Lived Experience, and Diversity Advisory Committee, CFC, chaired by Commissioner Chambers. Again, that committee is going to be chaired by Commissioner Rochelle Chambers, and the acronym is CFC. This temporary merger will enable members to collaborate on the development of the Innovation Partnership Fund, which is operating under a very tight underscore bold timeline. The CFC will meet regularly on the fourth Thursday of months when there is no full commission meeting. The first meeting of the CFC is scheduled for September 25th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And we invite all members of the public who are interested in contributing. And we know that we had a lot of very important feedback at our last commission meeting. We invite you all to please participate and join the meeting. In recent activities, the Program Advisory Committee held a listening session for the Innovation Partnership Fund on September 7th. At the upcoming October Commission meeting, the Commission will review and discuss the preliminary framework for the grant program with Acting Deputy Director Melissa Martin-Mullard presenting the draft. That again is at the October Commission meeting. Continuing on with announcements, in line with the new transparency efforts, we will begin providing brief updates on recent contract amendments during all committee announcements for informational purposes only. Please note that contracts amendments are negotiated between the Commission and the contractor and must be mutually agreed upon. This month, we have one amendment to report, an update to the Commission's Program 11 contract for creative services. This amendment increases the existing agreement allocation by $95,000, bringing the total from $444,726 to $539,726. As of now, $137,963 of the current agreement remains unexpended. The additional funds will support the design and publication of a BHSA stakeholder toolkit. The funds for this amendment are drawn from the Commission's annual $100,000 allocation for BHSA implementation, provided over 3 fiscal years beginning fiscal year 2024 through 2025. These funds must be used specifically, emphasize that, for BHSA implementation, otherwise they will be forfeited. This amendment is being executed under the delegated authority of the Executive Director. The Legislative Lex Committee will be discussing the advocacy contracts and the toolkit in more detail during their meeting this afternoon at 12:45 p.m. And that's today at 12:45 p.m. Finally, the full commission will not meet in September, with the next meeting set for October 23rd at 9 a.m. This concludes the announcements that I have to make this morning. I'll pause and see if there are any announcements that other members of the Fiscal Committee wanted to make, and I'll start with Vice Chair.
None for me, thank you.
And other members of the Fiscal Committee? Thank you very much. I want to welcome everyone to today's meeting. We are now going to transition to Agenda Item 3, General Public Comment. This time is reserved for comments on items that are not on the agenda. Cody, would you please lead us into public comment?
Thank you. If you'd like live meeting transcription or closed captioning, please activate the closed captioning feature located in the control bar at the top or bottom of your screen. If there are any members of the public using translation technology, please notify the chair, and at least twice the amount of time will be given to you during the public comment period. For members of the public in the room, if you have not already, please use one of the green public comment cards located at the front to indicate you would like to make comment on this item and any other agenda items. Cards can be given to staff located at the table. Members of the public can also email us public comment to be shared at a future meeting at publiccomment@bhsoac.ca.gov. I will now go over the public comment procedures. Once the public comment period for the agenda item starts, we will close the public comment queue, so please make requests to comment at that time. You may request to make public comment by submitting a card, clicking the raise hand icon on your computer or the app, or if calling in by phone, push *9. When it is your turn to comment, I will call you to the podium or unmute your line and announce your name or the last 3 digits of your telephone number. For virtual comments, I will insert the word last comment next to the commenter's name or number to identify the last public comment. We appreciate your understanding with this process. We'll begin with in-room comments. When your name is called, please proceed to the podium to make your comment. Chair, we currently have one in-room comment from Stacy Hiramoto.
Good morning, Commissioner. Stacy Hiramoto with REMCO, the Racial and Ethnic Mental Health Disparities Coalition. I just want to commend the Commission again and this committee for your commitment to transparency. And we do really notice that you are moving towards that in lightning speed, and we really appreciate it. I just had a little comment, and I have some other comments during the contract, so I'm going to say it here because I did look up this. Again, thank you for the transparency on this contract amendment and update. And it's to do a toolkit for stakeholders. And I looked up this organization online, and I admit it was cursory, but their staff, they don't have a board, it seems, but their staff did not appear. And again, I know this is cursory, but it did not appear to be very diverse. So I was just concerned that they were getting more money to do a stakeholder toolkit. But again, they may be very qualified. I just ask that because you're in charge of contracts in the future, to make sure that the staff and boards, if there is a board, that they do represent the diverse communities in California. Thank you so much again.
Okay, and we will move on to virtual comments, except I do not see any hands raised at this point, so I'm going to give it back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Stacy, for your comments, and thank you, everyone, for being here again. We appreciate it very much. The committee will now move on to agenda item 4 and consider approval of the minutes from the July 17th Budget and Fiscal Committee meeting. At this time, I would like commissioners to offer comments or ask questions. Any questions or comments from commissioners in the room? Commissioners online, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Cody, could you go ahead and take a public comment?
Thank you. We have no public comment at this time.
Thank you, Cody. Now, before I entertain a motion, I'd like to ask commissioners that are in the room and online to please unmute your lines, and I will entertain a motion on this item.
So moved.
We have a move by Commissioner Carnevale.
Second.
That sounds like Commissioner Wilkes.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I will take now a vote on the committee, that the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee approves the July 17th, 2025 meeting minutes. Commissioner Roulette,
Aye.
Commissioner Contreras,
Aye.
Commissioner Bunch, Commissioner Carnevale,
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon,
Aye.
Commissioner Designee Polmano,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilks.
Aye.
The minutes are adopted.
Thank you so much. We have a very distinguished presenter coming to the podium now. We will discuss a process to establish criteria and procedures for placing contracts on the full commission's consent agenda by leveraging the work and structure of the commission's committees. Again, we have a distinguished presenter, Brenda Graylich, our executive director, to provide a brief presentation on the proposed process. Brenda, thank you, and proceed, please.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Commissioner Rowlett. I'm really pleased to be here today with Lauren Quintero, my current acting deputy of administration and performance management. So before I get started, I do want to acknowledge, I know it says Norma Pate on our screen, and so just wanted to say publicly for everybody, just to announce that Norma has decided to retire, and so I will be taking over her place on this presentation today, but really just want to publicly say thank you so much to Norma for all her many years of dedicated service to this commission. There's been so many wonderful advancements along the way, in large part to her contributions. So, so really wish her well on this next chapter of her life. So, and I'm really happy to be able to present.
Brenda, if I may?
Oh, yes, please.
Again, as the chair of the fiscal committee, I think it would be appropriate at this time to take a moment to just say, Norma, thank you very much. Your kindness, your regard for me in this process. I would not be surprised if Norma is listening in because of her caring for the work that we do for the people in the state of California. So again, I want to say, Norma, thank you for being very engaging, very responsive, and always texting me and making sure that I would be on time for the committee meetings. So thank you, Norma, very much. Back to you, Brenda.
And if I can just second that, I just want to say briefly that I work closely with Norma on our strategic plan and in various budgeting, and she's a wonderful person, and she's been an important part of the staff, so we appreciate her service.
And I would echo those sentiments completely.
Great. And I can't agree more with each of you, the sentiments expressed by each of the commissioners this morning. So, okay, well, we have quite a bit of territory to cover in our 2-hour meeting today. So starting off with our consent process for commission contracts. So I'm Brenda Graylich, Executive Director for the Commission for Behavioral Health. I guess I can go to the next slide. Oh, it buzzes when I move it.
It's pretty.
I guess so. So as the chair mentioned, this presentation is going to outline a proposed process for establishing criteria and procedures that allow committees to place contracts on the full commission's consent agenda. So today we're going to go over an overview of the relevant Welfare and Institutions Code, the relevant commission's rule of procedures, our current consent process, and the objectives of our newly developed consent process for the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee. So looking at the overview of the Welfare and Institutions Code, section 5845, some background on the rules that govern us. There's quite a bit on this little section here about the executive director, but want to point out the language that states that the commission may delegate to the executive director any power, duty, purpose, function, or jurisdiction that the commission may lawfully delegate, including the authority to enter into and sign contracts on behalf of the commission. So the commission's rules of procedure take that delegated authority and defines the parameters of its use. So looking at the rules of procedure, the most updated rules of procedure for the commission was adopted in January of this year. And section 2.4 outlines the specific contract authority of the executive director and allows the executive director to enter into contracts on the commission's behalf in the amount of $100,000, or for interagency agreements, that's $200,000, I should say, or less, up to. And so you can find the most recent version of our rules and procedures on our website. It's also part of the committee meeting materials packet for today. In addition, the rules of procedure outline the commission's normal consent agenda process, and which works as follows. Essentially, non-controversial or routine action items may be placed on the consent calendar. All of these consent calendar items are voted on as a single unit, so not individually. Any commissioner may request to remove items from a consent calendar without needing a vote. I think that actually just happened, I think, at our May meeting. Was a good example of that. And that any removed items may be either discussed at that same meeting or at a future meeting as decided by the commission. And that no discussion or presentation is allowed for items that remain on the consent calendar. Continuing on with the consent calendar, let's see, this is, our staff prepares the briefing materials on each of the agenda items and provides those meetings in advance of the commission meeting. Those will include a detailed description of the proposed course of action, any background information, the fiscal impact, should be pros and cons of taking action, but it could be pros if you want to put it in the literary term, and similar information for alternative actions. In terms of the executive director's authority, any of the contracts that are approved by the executive director are not placed onto consent, but will be included as part of meeting announcements for the agenda. So, as we saw today. Let's see next slide. In terms of the rules of, the proposed purpose of the proposed process is really trying to streamline the work that we're doing, the time that we're taking. So essentially, the criteria and procedures for placing contracts on the full commission's consent agenda is for when contracts have been previously reviewed and recommended concurrently by the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee, the Legislative and External Affairs Advisory Committee, or the Program Advisory Committee. Okay. And again, these are all subject to the rules and procedures of the Open Meeting Act. So in order for to be considered for placement on the consent agenda under this proposed process, the contracts must meet all of the following criteria. So the committee review requirements, the committee recommendation consistency across the committees, substantive requirements and procedural requirements, each of these which I will go through in these upcoming slides. So in terms of the committee review requirements, under this criterion, contracts must meet the following conditions. The contract was formally presented to and substantially reviewed by the three committees as appropriate. So the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee, the Legislative and External Affairs Advisory Committee, and the Program Advisory Committee. And the advisory committees would vote to recommend the contract for commission approval. If they are not voted forward then to be on the by all three committees, then they will not be put on the consent process. That'll be on a later slide, but just want to mention that right now in case anybody's wondering. And then the committee will review. Reviews will have to have occurred at a properly noticed public meetings with the opportunity for public comment. So those are the committee review requirements.
So question. So that means the contracts as presented must be approved by all three committees without changes?
In order to be on the consent process, correct.
Thank you.
And Sandra.
Just clarification, I think what we're suggesting is 2 of the 3, right? Budget plus Lex or budget plus program, or are we suggesting all 3?
Well, I think all 3 in order to go on consent.
Oh,
right?
consent, okay.
Yes, thank you. Otherwise, it's going to have to be an agenda item, if not all the committees are in, if there's some differing perspectives that would have to be taken into consideration for the full commission. Okay.
So since that point has been raised,
Yeah.
if it's 2 out of the 3, then it would go on the agenda
It's 2.
of the commission. If two committees recommend an action and another committee says,
I'm going to defer to Sandra because she's giving me a look here.
Yeah. Yes. The motion is proposed is the budget or Lex, budget or program. So it's going to be
But it has to have a
2,
fiscal and a program.
a
Yes.
program and a fiscal,
Yep.
correct.
Yep.
So for
Or a Lex
example,
and a fiscal.
correct.
Yep. Thank you
So
for
it's
saying
2
that.
of the 3.
Yep.
okay, thank you.
thanks you guys for clarifying that. That was a good point of
Can
clarification.
I just,
Oh, is that wrong?
sorry, Pulvano here. May I just ask a timing question? So it says on the first requirement, contract formally presented to and substantially reviewed by the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee before we vote on it. So are you anticipating that we do all these steps at one budget meeting?
Yeah, we would put it on the budget, for sure, we would put it on the budget calendar, and then that would be reviewed, and so there would have to be budget, and then either the program or the legislative and external affairs. And then, so the combo of budget, it just always has to have a budget to say that it's, you know, the funding's available and it's appropriate, and then programmatically from either the Program Advisory Committee or the Legislative and External Affairs Committee. And then once we have those two, then we would move it forward to the full commission.
Right. My question though is just specific to this. When you, for example, you ask us to review a contract, do you want us to vote on that contract at that same meeting?
Yes, typically, if we're bringing it up, we're talking about it, we will propose a vote to you to,
In one meeting? Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
yeah.
So apropos of that, it now gets on the regular agenda, not the consent agenda. And it's approved by 2 of the 3.
Yep, and so to go on the consent, but if it's not approved.
But to
then-
go consent on the full commission
Correct.
meeting. So it would not be on consent here.
No,
It would be
correct.
just, you would receive it in the materials a week before, ideally review it, come, discuss, vote. And if you vote here as a committee and program or Lex also votes to support after they've reviewed, then it would go into consent for the full commission.
So it's committee work being done for a full commission meeting.
Okay, so then my question is, if one of the 3 committees had an issue, would that be reported in the item so that people didn't have to say, well, what was the concern that this X
And I don't think it would go
committee had?
forward at that point, right? So-
If there was a necessary, it could either not go forward or you could go for a full commission discussion, correct? So like, let's say budget supported it, but Lex did not. You would be able to talk to the chair, see if it should be agendized for the full commission, but it wouldn't go on consent for the full commission. It would be an item to discuss and debate at the full commission.
But if I understand Dave's question, it is, and Dave, you'll tell me if I'm wrong, it is the points of disagreement that would be clarified and made clear to the entire commission so that when they were reviewing it, they would have that understanding as
Have the
well.
full information.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
And that would be part of the materials that we would prep for.
okay.
Okay, good. Great questions. Okay, can we get our presentation back up? Are you doing that, Logan, or? Okay, okay, Cody's doing it.
And if I could again, commissioners online, because we have to toggle back. If you have a question, just staff are very accommodating at stopping
Absolutely.
and speaking to your questions. Thank you.
Yep, and feel free to raise hands too. Okay, next slide on the committee recommendation consistency. A little more information. Oh, I'm the next slide, that's why. Okay, so first off, so the next requirement is the committee recommendation consistency. And so to meet this standard, our contracts must satisfy the following criteria. So it would not have no material modifications to the contract terms, no significant concerns or reservations expressed by the committee members that remain unresolved, and committee and staff recommendations are consistent with each other and with staff recommendations. Okay, and this is to go on consent. So, and then in terms of the substantive requirements, contracts must also meet the following substantive requirements to be eligible for placement on the consent agenda. That funding has been confirmed by the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee. The scope and objectives have been confirmed by the Program Advisory or the LEX committees, and that there are no material changes to the contract conditions since the committee had reviewed it. In terms of procedural requirements, the following requirements must be met: that the contract would comply with all applicable state and procurement laws, Legal counsel's approved, and there's no legal, ethical, or conflict of interest issues that remain unresolved. In terms of, for contracts excluded from the consent agenda, that process would include, again, contracts where any committee recommended approval contingent upon the material modifications that have not yet been incorporated, anything where committee votes were not unanimous, or any contracts that have generated significant public opposition or controversy since the committee review. Oops, sorry, guys. Any contracts involving new or experimental programs, any contracts that establish precedents for new categories of commission expenditures, any multi-party or joint power agreements, or any contracts, again, where material information has changed since the committee review, and as well as those involving potential litigation or settlement of disputes. In terms of committee coordination requirements, and we talked a little bit about this, so the staff team shall coordinate with the commission advisory committees to schedule reviews in logical concurrence based on the contract timeline and the committee meeting schedules. The committee reviewing second shall be provided with the recommendation from the first so that we can keep continuity of information. And we will do what we can to ensure consistency in information presented to the commission advisory committees in preparing. And in terms of documentation standards, all the committee reviews are going to include a comprehensive staff presentation covering the contract scope, the contract terms, fiscal impact and policy implications, a written staff report with a committee-specific analysis, public opportunity following Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act public participation procedures, and then formal committee action with us reporting the votes and recommendations. In terms of staff procedures, as part of this process, the staff will perform an eligibility determination during which we'll verify compliance with all eligibility criteria before recommending a contract for the consent agenda placement. We'll also document the following. We'll document dates and outcomes of the commission advisory committee reviews, committee recommendation consistency, resolution of any committee concerns or requested modifications, and confirmation that there are no material changes since the committee's reviewed. And for the packet materials, they'll include an executive summary noting the Commission Advisory Committee recommendations and the vote tallies, as well as confirmation that all committee requested modifications have been incorporated.
I have I think a fairly simplistic question about modifications. So procedurally, if the fiscal committee requests modifications in a specific procurement, and we decide that we would like to ask staff to work with the grant recipient and change something within the parameters of Prop 1, and that happens, it would then come back to us, or would it go to the program committee with those recommendations that we made having been completed, so that it could then go to the commission, noting that we made these recommendations, the program committee understands that they can accept or reject, of course, and then it will go to the commission.
And are you talking about an existing contract? So if we have an existing contract in place?
Or a contract that might come to
Or
us
grant?
for review.
Because usually when we're coming to you we're looking for approval for the expenditure,
Yes.
like to do that. And so, and we won't have a contractor yet, but it would be for, are you wondering like in terms of the content where you're wanting us to make sure that something is going to be addressed in that contract? Then we
Yeah.
would make notations of that.
And thank you for making sure that I stay consistent with my public sector questions, because the private sector works just a little bit differently. So it would be a new contract that had not gone out.
Okay.
And so if we made some recommendations and changes of the structure of the contract, then those changes would go to the program committee
Or Lex.
or Lex.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with the Lex committee does with contracts as of
Advocacy.
yet, at this time. But they would go to the program committee, and then they would know that we are making those recommendations, and then those changes would then go to the commission.
Yeah, and I think when we're asking for, when we're coming here, we're asking for authorization for the contract and like what kind of contract we're looking to do and the amount, but all that substantive detail, that could be something that if the committee is wanting us to make sure that we're including in the contract or the grant, we can capture that and we can take it to other committees as well. So the Program Advisory Committee or the LEX Committee. So I guess maybe what I'm trying to figure out is, in terms of the Budget and Fiscal Committee's responsibility is to make sure that the funding is there and that it's appropriate for that use, whatever the use is that we're proposing. And then in terms of content, typically that would be the LEX or the Program Advisory Committees, but it sounds like maybe there might be some ideas that this committee might have that would want to inform their thinking on that end. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, and even specifically, I guess I'm reticent to bring it up, but there's a specific contract I'm thinking about where there was no plan for sustainability. Very specific.
Okay.
And this committee might say, hey, we need a plan for sustainability, and there needs to be funding allocated for that. What's the sustainability? What is the sustainability plan? Now, that typically falls in programming. However, there are fiscal components associated with that, and you're right, that is exactly what I was just thinking about.
Yep.
Yeah, and you know.
So there
what
will be interaction between the committees,
Yes,
and that's
yes.
appropriate, yep.
Okay.
And we would have to figure out our coordination on that.
So now you got me wondering, just to be clear though, there are other times where we just say, we're authorizing something and we're going to we're authorizing you to work out the details. We're not rewriting this so that you have to come back again
Right.
after you've done that. You have the ability, if we've authorized you, to finish.
Yep, so
Okay.
it's basically saying, okay, we're gonna do this project, we're approving this to move forward to the full commission for consideration. If the full commission adopt, and this is the consent process, so if it's on
Yeah.
consent,
Yes.
the commission, there'll be the consent process. If not, we do it as an agenda item. And then if it's approved, then we would go back and do our usual process for developing grants, contracts, with coming back with an outline, and we'd have to come back to the full commission with an outline that the commission would then have to approve. And then if the commission approves, then we would do the RFP or RFA.
Yes, and in the development of that RFP or RFA, if the fiscal committee says, well, where's the sustainability plan here? How's that being addressed? Or how's that being solicited by a recipient? How are you going to ensure that they could do that? That might be a programming question, but there are fiscal components to that question.
I can see it coming up in the fiscal discussion, I can see it coming up
Yes.
in the program discussion, I can also see it coming up in the commission discussion, both at the time when the expenditure is being requested, allocation is being requested, as well as when the outline's being presented.
Well, my hope would be that our committees would be astute enough to ask those questions and provide the commission, the larger commission, with our perspective on that, because that's why we exist.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sounds good. Okay, so, looking where I'm at. Next up. Committee meeting procedures. So once a contract has been successfully completed, has successfully completed the process and is placed on the commission's consent agenda, the following procedures will apply during the commission's meeting. So the consent agenda presentation will include that contracts will be clearly identified as having received Commission Advisory Committee recommendations, like we just talked about. The chair, so it'll be on the chair's talking points, they'll summarize the committee review process and outcomes before calling for removal requests. And any commissioner, again, as we mentioned a little earlier, can request removal of any of the consent items for individual consideration, consistent with our bylaws. Yeah, absolutely. Commissioner
Perhaps-
Gordon, go for it.
Perhaps make a suggestion. It strikes me that this is moving down to public participation, and I'll explain why. The last statement is, staff shall note during public comment that I have previously received public input during committee reviews. I think it might be worth adding in that first group of the fact that public comments the opportunity for public comments have been afforded. Public commenters have been afforded the opportunity to comment and provide public input during committee reviews so that it's up there rather than at the end. You see what I'm getting? See what I'm getting at? That's built into the process of having the
Yep.
committee review in the first place.
Got it. Thank you. All right, and as we mentioned with the commissioner removal rights, the commissioner can, any commissioner can ask that any consent agenda item be removed. And again, it could be for any reason, including a desire just for further deliberation, regardless of the committee recommendations. And that these could be scheduled for individual consideration either at that meeting or at a future meeting. And that removal requests do not require any justification, so. All right, and then as we mentioned, we talked about public participation, that basically public comment on committee reviewed consent agenda items shall be taken in accordance with the Bagley-Keene requirements. And we need to note during public comments that the items have previously received public input during committee reviews, so that's clear. And then we'll take Commissioner Gordon's to make sure that that's very clear.
I want to also acknowledge that I think that it is significant that when members of the public have significant comment, have comments, and that there are significant concerns about a particular item, that not only are those concerns acknowledged, the item then would, in all likelihood, go to the full commission for discussion. And I think that that's a very important, hopefully it's not lost on the public, our commitment to that discourse, allowing them the opportunity to influence them, and that their input is not just valuable, but quite frankly, changes the trajectory of some of the work that we might do as commissioners.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. If there's no other questions, we can ask that the committee entertain the following motion. That the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee recommend that the full commission adopt the proposed procedure permitting contracts previously recommended for approval by the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee and the Legislative and External Affairs Advisory Committee or the Program Advisory Committee to be placed on the consent agenda for full commission meetings. Moving to Sandra for
We need a motion.
we need a motion and a second, sorry, and public.
Well, let me first ask if there are any additional commissioner comments, and it looks
Yeah.
like there are.
Well, I do have a question. So now that we've been through this, it sort of logically sounds right, but I guess my question is, how does that substantively change what we do today? Because I want to make sure I'm not missing something in the deal. Has that radically changed anything
We have
we're doing?
committees today, so this.
Well, I know, I realize, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say. Now that are we just modifying what we do today for
Yep.
the committee structure?
Yep.
Or does this in some way, elongate or shorten anything that we're doing today?
No, yeah, I was gonna say, the goal is to make it more efficient. So since
Well,
we have the
that's what I'm
committee
concerned.
structure, then have it be more efficient by doing the work in the committees. And then, so then the thought and the conversation has happened in the committees. And
Yeah.
then we could leverage the consent process as appropriate.
Okay, well, that's what I was
Yeah.
hoping. I mean, I guess I just feel the need to sort of say the following. We are under the category of complete transparency, which I think we all agree on. It is within the context that we celebrate that in this unique commission, because nowhere else in government does this happen. HHS has a $200 billion budget, and nobody gets any input or insight or transparency into any of it. So I think that's a point of celebration. When I often talk to outside groups, I explain why this commission is so unique. At the same time, I think people want government to work well. We don't want to get to the point where we are, we have public input on buying pencils. We need to find this balance between being, reaching our objective to solve problems where people are suffering today and try to, address those as quickly as possible versus having the open and transparency. So that's all.
Thank you.
That's what's always on my mind.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Commissioner Palmano.
I think maybe I misunderstood something. I thought that to put something on the consent agenda for the full commission meeting all the advisory committees need to vote aye for the item to be consented. Is that right?
It's always the budget and fiscal if there's for the finance part of it or the funding part of it, and then either the legislative and external affairs committee or the program advisory committee, because that's where the programmatic components come from. So there's a fiscal and a programmatic pairing
see.
that then goes forward to the commission.
Good. Okay, so that's how that consent.
Yep.
Okay, works. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Any
So-
other comments from commissioners online? Oh, I don't see any other hands. Commissioners in the room? Commissioner Gorton? Carnavale? Okay.
I'll motion.
Wait. we have a motion from Commissioner Wilkes. We'll have a motion and second, then we'll go to public comment. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All right. Cody, please go ahead with opening it up for public comment and public dialogue.
All right, thank you. At this time, members of the public may request to make a public comment on this agenda item by clicking the raise hand button on your computer or the app, or if calling in by phone by pushing *9. If you are in person, please make sure you have turned the public comment card into the staff at the front table. We'll begin with in-room public comments. I do not have any back here unless they haven't been delivered. If so, let me know. And we have one online public comment from Larissa Owen. Larissa, I just sent you a request to unmute. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. My comments have been emailed to BHOAC staff several times over the last year, but I haven't received a response. So I thought maybe this was the best forum to try and have a voice. When approving contracts, I believe there are 3 simple questions that either should be asked or be provided to the commission. Is this contract funding going toward all California organizations? For example, is the funding subcontracting $3.5 million to a company in New York using a non-competitive bid, but not disclosed to the commission in the approval process? 2, does this contract funding include women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned businesses in California and or micro or small businesses as the prime or the subcontractor? 3, is the contract getting awarded by non-competitive bid, either as the prime or a subcontractor, to an organization that is an incumbent with several BHOAC contracts and therefore excluding non-incumbents or small businesses? I believe this knowledge is valuable for the commission and they deserve to know since it is publicly available. Does the commission deserve to know the percentage of yearly contract funding made to large organizations, repeated incumbents, and agencies outside of California as a prime or a subcontractor, and vice versa, the percentage to women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, and micro businesses? Although the data points I'm about to mention are old, they are valuable. In 2003, there were 4.2 million small businesses in the state, representing an overwhelming share of California workforce by employing more than 7 million people, generating more than 43% of the state's total exports, creating nearly 2 out of 3 new jobs. Small businesses, micro businesses, minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned businesses are critical to the economic well-being of the state by creating new businesses, economic benefits, employment opportunities, and by bringing new innovation, services, and products to the marketplace, generating 90% of the state's GBT. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I got all that in.
And I believe that was the last public comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if staff were wanting to make any additional comments regarding the presentation?
No, just thank you for the input, because, I mean, those are good things to consider, and we can think about it through our process. And I think there are some requirements that we're trying to make with disabled veteran business enterprises. That's one thing that we're looking to do, which is going to actually be on our next agenda item. So, but we do have certain mandates that we have to meet. And in terms of the process, the purpose of these committees is to be very transparent with with all of the work that we're doing. And so either items are going to come up in these committee meetings to talk about in terms of developing RFAs for work, or RFPs, or some of the things like we talked a little bit about earlier in terms of the items that for the expenditure authority of the executive director. We will also be including all of that in announcements, so that we're trying to maximize transparency in all the work that we're doing.
And certainly, from my perspective, I think that all awardees, in terms of their work, their profile, their internal and external presentation should reflect the rich diversity of my word, nation state of California.
And I would just like to add, because I am the small business representative on this commission, I couldn't agree more with the previous caller that small business is the economic engine of California. So I know there are a variety of requirements, I believe, that require us already to disclose, and we're talking about putting our contracts all online. So I would hope and expect all of those factors to be highly visible for all of us, not only for the commissioners, but the public.
With that, were there any other additional comments from commissioners? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda process. Sandra?
So again, I ask all commissioners joining us online to unmute your lines to make this process easier. So we have agenda motion number 2, approval of the consent process for commission contracts, with a motion from Commissioner Wilks and a second from Commissioner Carnevale. Commissioner Roulette.
Aye.
Commissioner Contreras.
Aye.
Commissioner Bunch. Commissioner Carnevale.
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon.
Aye.
Commissioner Designee Pulmano.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilks. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to our distinguished presenter, who will be presenting again. She's not hearing me call her distinguished, but I just did. I called her executive director distinguished because she's doing a great job. Thank you so much.
It takes a village.
It takes a village. I did all that. Agenda item 6, expenditure authorization. Next, we will be provided with an overview of pending contracts and consider making recommendations to the full commission for approval. Again, I'd like to ask Brenda to present the contracts requested for authorization.
Okay, thank you so much. So we have 2 contracts that are that we are requesting the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee to recommend for approval to by the full commission. The first is under the Legislative and External Affairs category. We are asking for up to $150,000 for a 3-year contract with Crusade for website maintenance and hosting. And in terms of the background of this contract, the current contract expires on December 30th of this year, 2025. A scope of work was developed in collaboration between communications and our communications and information technology teams to ensure applicable standards and needs were identified and addressed. After the scope of work was developed, our staff researched the Department of General Services website to obtain a list of potential vendors with the skills listed that would meet the needs identified in the scope of work. We focused on those who were listed as disabled veteran business enterprises, contractors who had experience in web development. Invitations to bid were sent to 12 contractors in total. Staff from our communications and information technology were included in the review of the bids. The bids were similar in skill set and qualifications, but varied greatly in proposed cost. Ultimately, the most fiscally responsible bid was selected. This proposal includes the baseline costs for licensing and maintenance with additional funds available for hourly work subject to prior staff approval. Unused funds would revert at the end of the contract. We're also asking for approval to move forward to the full commission under our administration and performance management category, in which we are asking for up to $250,000 for a contract to update our strategic plan and provide leadership training to CBH management team members. And this has come from different conversation that's happened in our full commission meetings and the need to update our current strategic plan as we transition from the Mental Health Services Act to the Behavioral Health Services Act, as well as, I will say, the executive director identifying a need for leadership training for our leadership team here at the Commission for Behavioral Health to ensure strong leadership and support for our entire staff team. So with that, I will move. There's a motion on the table, and we can talk about it here in terms of, I guess, do we talk about it first? Yeah, let's talk about it first.
Well,
First questions and second public comment and then vote.
Thanks, Sandra. Honestly, I've been doing this since I was at CCJBH, and it's like, I don't know why I can't get that choreography down. It's my left brain, right brain thing.
Well, you're in a unique chair today. So thanks, Brenda. At this time, I'd invite commissioners to offer comments and to ask questions.
I just had who is contract number 2 with?
TBD, that to be determined. We have not selected
I
a
see.
contractor
Okay.
yet.
And regarding that contract, I get the leadership training part. I was not so clear about the connection to the strategic plan. So is this to develop?
They do both. We're looking for a contractor. A lot of times, a lot of the strategic planning companies also do offer leadership trainings, and so they're separate processes. So one would be to update the strategic plan to update from MHSA to BHSA, and then separately, we would also be looking for that contractor to help strengthen our leadership team.
Okay, I guess because last time I led the effort around the strategic plan, so that's a little fuzzy to me, and I'd like to request being involved in the development of that and make sure that it addresses all the things that we thought about previously and anything new we want to think about.
Thank you. That sounds good.
Thank you.
Any comments from Commissioner Palmano?
I'll start with contract 2. When you update the strategic plan, given that the funding under BHSA is for 5 years, is that strategic plan going to cover those 5 years?
The strategic plan would be for the entire commission. So it's just our general strategic plan. It's not
I
linked
see.
to any one particular project. So I think you're thinking about the Innovation Partnership Fund maybe, or we also have the Mental Health Wellness Act. We have Behavioral Health Student Services Act, the advocacy grants. So we have quite a bit in our portfolio, and the strategic plan would be updated just in general for the commission as we've moved from MHSA to BHSA and as the statute has changed some of our mandates.
Okay.
But the current strategic plan is for 24 to 27 as it was originally constructed.
Yeah, I think to your point, Commissioner Carnival, usually when I think of a strategic plan, I have to admit I haven't seen the commission's strategic plan 2024 to 27. It usually covers, right, a particular period of time, and there are benchmarks on what the commission attempts to achieve in those years, I suppose. So it looks like this is more of a general vision, if I'm understanding that right. Now I'd like to talk about the website maintenance. Is this a new contractor, Crusade? And if so, who was the previous contractor and how much did it cost for the website maintenance and hosting?
The contractor that we had before was also Crusade. We just wanted to make sure that we were going out and checking to make sure that we were getting the best services. We don't want to just rest on our relationships that we have. And it is a small business, micro business. The cost for that contract has been pretty consistent throughout.
So consistent means it was also 150,000?
We did it for less, before we were doing it year by year instead of this one, which is like a 3-year one. So it's ranged, since I've been at the commission, between 50 to 100,000 a year, depending on, what we were doing website wise at the time. We transitioned over to a new website and I believe the cost was a little bit more that particular year,
Got it.
but
Thank
now
you.
it's stabilized.
Thanks. And is that when we determine, because you're asking us to vote on this, when you determine whether, well, at least for me, whether this is a good price or not, and you do your comparisons according to staff's recommendation and opinion, I suppose, this 150 is a reasonable amount for the value and the service that we are getting.
Hold on one second, Robert.
Good morning, Ryan Kopchak, Assistant Deputy Director, Legislation and External Affairs, and I led this contract project. What we did was, the original contract was 52,000 for 1 year. We wanted to expand that for 3 years, so we didn't have to go through this process every year, right? The other thing that we did was we changed the way that the contract was set up. So our previous contract for services was that we would get a certain amount of hours from the contractor, and they would get paid a certain amount. That was regardless of if those hours were completely fulfilled or not, and that's the way our contract had worked for a really long time. This new contract asked for a base rate and an hourly rate, right? So the base rate is going to include like licenses, keeping the website updates, general updates, but any work outside of that that we ask them to do, such as an overhaul, such as adding the community planning toolkit, things of that nature, they're going to give us an estimate of hours. We're going to pre-approve that project at an hourly rate. So when we did the research and we solicited bids, we asked them for 3 items. One was costs to migrate from whatever current system we have to their platform. Second was the hourly rate at which they would bill us. And then third was the standard monthly rate that we were asking them to provide just to keep our website going, keep our licenses up to date, make sure that it was secure. Is that helpful?
Yes, so, okay, 150,000 that gets us something. Is there like a limitation on the number of hours on this one, or this is like the overall contract that there's no other extra fees that we'll have to pay them? I'm just trying to understand.
Correct.
And
There would-
yeah, and again, those are, yeah, if you can just
Absolutely.
clarify.
There
Yeah,
would be no extra fees that we would provide them. How we based that 150,000 was we took whatever base rate that they quoted us, multiplied that times the year, like months in the year, and then we took what we thought might be the average based on previous services received. And we said, okay, how much, if that averaged, I believe we did 25 hours of work a month, right? If we averaged 25 hours, this is how much money we would need. And then because we have some big projects coming up, such as the community planning toolkit and adding the contracts to the website and things like that, we added a few more hours with consideration to that hourly potential. And that's how we came up with the 150,000 for 3 years, knowing that likely we'll have some unused funds that can then revert back to that fiscal year.
thank you. That's helpful, actually.
Of course.
Thank you.
I have a question. Oh, there's 2 more.
There's me and then there's public.
Yeah.
My question is the motion to pass, oh, and Chris, is the motion to pass, or to get contractors for the 150 and for, the executive director to choose and the team to choose who's going to be the $250,000 contract, right? Which means that will not come to the full commission.
guess I should have my mic on, sorry, Commissioner Wilkes. The motion will be for the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee to move these items forward to the full commission. And then we would be keeping, and if the full commission approves these, then, our web contract would be our web contract. And then as far as when we look to identify a contractor for the strategic plan, we can keep that included in the announcement section of our committee and full commission meetings.
Okay. And by that meeting will be October, so would there be any folks as to who would be the contractor for the strategic planning and the other part?
Say that again, sorry.
So would there be any preliminary like who may be the contractor for that?
We
Would there
may,
be any
if the
ideas?
October, but if not October, then probably January would be, unless we had a December meeting.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
So in that same category, and I don't think there are any other comments from commissioners online. If I am missing your hand, please.
Chris.
Chris, I'm sorry. Chris, you go ahead and I'll refrain from asking the question.
Thanks. I just had a quick question about the strategic plan, just to make sure I'm getting it right. So we have a strategic plan now that takes us to 2027, right? I want to understand the timing of this new strategic plan. My understanding was that given the transition to BHSA, we wanted to relook at the current strategic plan, and that might mean that we're changing some of the priorities that were originally through 2027, right? Not that this new contract is like looking past 2027 necessarily. I mean, it might, but it really is to reassess, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the current strategic plan was developed pre-Prop 1, and so now it's just taking and revisiting that and updating as needed. And maybe we can have it go out longer, so then we don't have to do another strategic plan as soon.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
So again, staying there in the category of strategic planning, you have asked, the request is for authorization for $250,000 for a strategic plan development process that would include Prop 1 and staff development. And then, as I understood it, you were hoping that it might be the same entity. And I hope that there is consideration that it could be two entities, and this allows for that.
Yep.
That one entity could help with staff development, and another entity, and you're nodding your head, so.
Yep. Yes, I'm nodding my head.
That's a yes,
That's a
okay.
yes, we could.
Okay, so that's good. And then secondly, Commissioner Carnevale was very involved in the development of the strategic plan under the MHSA OAC, but now under Prop 1, the BHS OAC, BHSA OAC, too many acronyms, that commissioners will be involved in the development of the strategic plan, of course,
And stakeholders.
and stakeholders, of course, you beat me to it, and stakeholders, of course. And that strategic plan, from my view, would make the current strategic plan, which is essentially sort of obsolete in 2026, because we're now moving under the BHSA OAC, except for the projects that we were already developed under the, I don't want to I don't want to convolute all of that, but I get it. There's a line, but we're moving forward. And so, to Chris's point, we will have a new strategic plan, to Roz's point, with very specific deliverables, and to Steve's point, maybe with a hopefully, from my view, with a different sort of time frame established from, as an example, 2026 to 2030, as the period in which that strategic plan would cover. Okay.
Yep.
It's good to articulate your understanding for me,
Yeah.
and hopefully members of the public who are not bored by that discourse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, thank you for saying it again. Yep.
Thank you.
Saying it again in a different way, because it helps, I think, to get it in everybody's mind with clarity.
Sure,
Yep.
sure. Were there any other comments from commissioners in the room?
And we could pull the
Well,
motion up.
yeah, I'd like to comment again. I'm sorry to be bogged down in this, like the first part of the motion is fine. That's pretty administrative. The strategic planning process to me is a big question. First of all, our current strategic plan is very broad, and it's not completely clear that Prop 1 changes anything in it. It just brings in a different funding source. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But you've come up with a very specific number, and I'd like to really rethink through the whole process. And I'm thinking more in terms of, rather than putting a number and just sending out an RFP and doing something, I think there's an opportunity here for concept development, and we might want to put out, I'm not sure what the right terminology is, but I call a concept development RFP that allows various entities to offer what they would recommend for our strategic plan, because I think there's a wide range of possibilities of what strategic plans might look like and how much they are. Again, we never really finished phase 2 of the first strategic plan, so there's that. There's a lot here. So I'm personally not that comfortable with the motion, including part 2. I think it requires a lot more conversation. So that's my opinion.
So what are staff's thoughts about that recommendation?
Well, I think it's really up to the committee's discussion. I mean, in terms of, like, I've already started working to get different proposals in, so, but we can definitely put a pause on that, and if the committee is wanting to go in a different direction, that is a possibility.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that's wrong. I guess I'd like to be more involved and understand where you're going with that, and rather than pass this now, maybe pick it up at next month's budget meeting and go and structure it a little bit more so I can make sure there's connective tissue between the last strategic plan and that process versus what you're thinking about, and whatever people you're already talking to. That would be helpful.
Yeah, I would say, or maybe it's two parts to it. It's, I mean, this is just authorizing the funding to be able to do this, but, we're getting a variety of proposals from folks who are able to do strategic planning. So we're trying to get a mix of different folks to provide proposals. And so then the second piece of it is selecting one of the proposals. And so we can talk a little bit about what that could look like too. So I think you guys could do the motion, like to do the approval for it. And then the second piece of it is the work to actually select. So
But
I don't
why
know
are
if
we
that would
putting,
change the motion, or
why are we putting a specific number if we haven't looked at all the proposals
we're
yet?
trying to keep it within a certain range, like in terms of the money being spent on it, trying to just be fiscally conservative and not spend too much money, but.
I appreciate that. At the same time, the strategic plan is everything we do, and if it requires whatever it requires to do it right, I personally am more in that mode, so that's where I guess I struggle a little bit, that it's so prescriptive. And if there's a requirement for leadership training separately, I'm all in favor of that immediately. So I would rather divide the training from the strategic plan and spend some more time talking about that.
Yeah, I would concur with that thought. The thing that troubled me a little bit was the organization that does strategic planning may not be the one you want to also do leadership training. So severing those might be a better way.
And we can sever them if there's like one that's looking good and one, and because we're asking for proposals and not all contractors do both. So some of the proposals don't include. We've gotten a couple so far, but we're looking to get additional proposals as well. So
Thank you.
So do I have a new motion proposed? And actually, before we do that, let's take public comment, and then if we are going to be amending a motion.
oh, is there somebody? Chris wants to comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just had one last question. Can you guys provide some context on how the strategic plan was put together last time around? So like, I understand that, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, did we go with an outside consultant last time? So is this sort of like the same process that we're gonna need to do anyways? Or was it that last time we didn't go with an outside consultant and it was like staff capacity and commissioner capacity that made the strategic plan happen?
I'd say maybe Commissioner Carnavale can speak to
Yeah,
it. It's
last
exactly-
time, similar to, it sounds like what our executive director is doing now, we solicited a variety of proposals with from a variety of vendors and then chose one of them to move forward.
Okay, thanks, that's helpful.
And as I appreciate the conversation, it goes back to the point of making sure staff have the understanding that you have the latitude and in all likelihood will probably, in my opinion, need to select two entities, one that will do leadership training and another that will do the strategic plan. What I was thinking you were going to say in response to Commissioner Carnavale's question is that your RFP, which you have not put out yet, you just there's no formal request for proposal yet around the strategic plan, is that correct?
No, there's no formal proposal out. No, in fact, I think we were looking to try to get bids to see if we could do it within the allocated fund, within our $100,000 ED authority if possible. Not quite looking that way yet, but depends on the proposal, the strategic plan.
And that, again, speaks to Commissioner Carnavale's notion about the importance of a strategic plan. And so, first, if we were to approve this motion, and you found that you needed additional funding for the strategic plan, you could come back to us or even the full commission, I suppose. Then B, the points that Commissioner Carnavale made in terms of incorporating concepts into the RFP to ensure that whoever was awarded could meet conceptually the needs as identified by staff and by commissioners, I would assume that you can incorporate that into an RFP. And if Commissioner Carnavale is a part of that process, then you have a great deal of input into what those concepts look like in the RFP. Does that sound like it would work? Yeah. Okay. Does that work for staff?
Yeah, I think that does work for us, and we can think about it in terms of doing this as an RFP instead of within executive director's authority, especially if it's going to be likely over the executive director's authority. Yeah, and if we're not doing it as an NCB either, because that is an option, but I know one we're not wanting to exercise very often. We're wanting to go more of a RFP route. It will take more time. I think that's one of the other considerations in terms of strategic plan, because we're very close to go time as we're moving from MHSA to BHSA, and so doing the RFP process will go through the whole procurement, so that will take some months to do.
Well, what I would add, I'm not opposed to either one. What I'm fuzzy about right now, sitting here today, that we don't need to chew up our time here, is it sounds like you're feeling a need to update the current strategic plan with the Prop 1, and that might, in fact, when I understand, but that might be not that big of a deal and within executive, and I'm all in favor of doing that rapidly, but in my opinion, a full strategic plan is a much bigger process than that, and that's why this doesn't make sense to me. If we're going to redo a 5-year strategic plan, it's probably going to be a lot bigger than that, and so that's where I'm a little fuzzy about.
And it is also in response to commissioner discussions from our previous meetings too. It's come up in the 2 full commission meetings I've been part of, both in May and just the one we just did in August to update it. So.
Any other discussion, commissioners? All right. Hearing none, Cody, take us to public comment. Thank you.
At this time, members of the public may request to make a public comment on this agenda item by clicking the raise hand button on your computer or the app, or if calling in by phone by pushing *9. If you are in person, please make sure you have turned in your public comment card to staff at the front table. Begin with in-room comments. There's one in-room comment from Tiffany Murphy. Tiffany, go ahead and go to the podium.
Oh, sorry, Cody, that's for agenda item 7.
Apologies. In that case, there are no public comments in the room or online. Oh, sorry, one just came in. from Larissa Owen online. Larissa, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be quick. Just to confirm, the one BH OAC staff member chose 11 agencies out of, and then one of the incumbent out of thousands of possible agencies, small businesses, so that they could stay under the director's approval and not have it go to RFP, which sort of connects to my previous comments. So this was a non-competitive bid controlled by staff, and no scoring or opportunity to understand that maybe small businesses that could be a part of this might cost more. And that's not always a bad thing if they could provide value. So it shouldn't be solely on cost. And I think that it does often take more time to be more economically open rather than procure within an agency, and only have 11 agencies in the state of California get that opportunity. So I think it's really important that at some point we start opening it up a little bit more so that there are advantages to non-incumbents.
Thank you, Ms. Owen. Sorry that wasn't clear. There's been no vendor selected for the strategic plan. So it was just a conversation. So I think maybe it just got a little confusing there for a moment. So we have not selected anything. But that said, appreciate your comments. They're actually very helpful.
And on this particular item, maybe that, Brenda, when we do have a selected vendor, you could speak to the process, okay? Either at a full commission meeting or at committee meetings and the full commission meeting.
Yep.
Okay. Cody, any additional public comment?
That was the last public comment. Thank you.
Now that public comment is closed, can we put the motion back up, please? That the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee recommend to the full commission to approve contracts that were reviewed at the, is this the right motion? September 18th, 2025 Budget Finance Advisory. I forgot what the A stood for a second. Advisory meeting.
No problem.
All right. Sorry, Sandra, I think I read it and you were supposed to.
Yeah, no. I'm looking at, do we have a motion?
I have a question. Aren't those motions supposed to be two separate motions? One for the 150 and one for the other
We
one?
could divide it into two so that we would have two separate votes. Right now, the staff has prepared it as one, but we would need someone to motion. I need a commissioner to call the motion, and then a second commissioner to second it. So you are free to propose two different motions, but I need the motion called by a commissioner.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm happy to have a motion for the first. It's not clear that we're ready to move forward on the second one, so that I would move that we pass the first motion and vote on that.
So am I hearing that you are proposing for the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee to recommend to the full commission to approve the Crusade contract? And I would like to get that on the screen, the Crusade contract, so that I'm not misreading what we're proposing. So yes, so we would propose
Correct.
the up to $150,000 for a 3-year contract with Crusade for website maintenance and hosting. Is that a
Yes.
motion?
That's what I'm motioning. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Pulmano second.
Okay. Again, the motion is on the line for the approval of the up to $150,000 for a 3-year contract with Crusade for website maintenance and hosting. We have the motion by Commissioner Carnevale and a second by Commissioner Pulmano. Commissioner Rolette,
Aye.
Commissioner Contreras,
Aye.
Commissioner Bunch, Commissioner Carnevale,
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon,
Aye.
Commissioner Designee Pulmano. Commissioner Pulmano.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilks.
Aye.
The motion passes. Now, do we have an entertaining a motion for the second portion to approve the $250,000 for a contract, so the spending authority to update the strategic plan to provide leadership training?
So
would-
hearing,
Sorry, I have a quick procedural question. So if we don't do anything here, if we don't have a motion here, will this second one still go to one of the other committees?
We're only putting this one on to the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee meeting,
Oh, okay,
particular one.
got it.
So if this doesn't even move forward for a motion, then we'll have to just go back and rework it. And,
Yes, we wouldn't
taking
have
all the
spending
feedback that
authority,
we've gotten
correct.
today, and then we can come back at a later time with it.
and are staff clear about what some of the feedback that you've gotten? And
Yeah.
okay, very good. I won't want to repeat all that.
And we know where to find you if we need further feedback or clarity.
So procedurally, Sandra, then there's no.
There is no second motion,
motions.
okay.
Okay.
So we've only have the authority to proceed with the first contract listed, and we will table the second for a future Budget and Finance meeting.
Thank you, guys. Good conversation. Okay. So, all right. I think this is over to you, Commissioner Rowlett. Transition us.
All right, we're going to transition again. First, I want to thank you, the commissioners, for your comments. We're a little bit behind time, so I want to be mindful of that. We are moving to agenda item 7. The committee will hear an overview of the commission's active grants and contracts for current initiatives and administrative operations. We will see a demonstration of the ongoing project to develop an interactive dashboard designed to present detailed fiscal information in a more accessible and user-friendly format. At this time, I'd like to welcome Brenda again to provide a more detailed overview of the commission's contracts. Brenda, you're the star of the day.
Okay, yeah, along with all the backup folks. So great job. Thank you so much. So moving along on our commission's contracts and grants, this will be our final presentation for our Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee meeting. And this presentation is really in line with CBH's commitment to transparency, really with our efforts and our Chair Alvarez's, the Commission Chair Alvarez's commitment to strengthen openness and foster two-way communication between the committee and the public. This effort collectively aligns the budget allocations with the Commission's strategic goals, helping to focus our resources on our highest priorities so that we're delivering the greatest impact. And really wanting to drive the point that fiscal responsibility is really the cornerstone of this commitment. And so moving to the next slide. So really purpose of this presentation, again, really to be responsive to the commissioner and stakeholder requests for detailed information on the commission's contracts and grants portfolios, really wanting to offer a comprehensive overview so that we can ensure accountability and informed decision-making. We're really looking to support our budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee to fulfill their advisory role and assisting to evaluate the financial health and effectiveness of CBH's programs. So really hoping that this presentation and the information and the content we're providing helps to anchor the committee members and the public on our current efforts and kind of where we stand. And so it will help with decisions as how we move forward. In terms of current fiscal practices, our contracts and grants management processes for our local assistance grants involve a competitive bidding process that includes several steps. So just kind of outlining, hopefully this looks really familiar to all of you, but it's good to make sure that we're all understanding the foundation of the work that we typically do. We typically hold listening sessions with community partners to gather input and feedback. We do commission presentations to present our outlines to the full commission for review and consideration. Once those outlines are approved, then we will release either an RFA or an RFP if it's a grant or a contract to solicit applications or proposals. Then we have a scoring team, do a notice of intent to award. We bring that back to the commission. And then we have a protest period, which allows for any challenges or disputes. And then we do our final award and then execute and implement the contracts. Just as a reminder, the executive director's delegated authority, again, is under $100,000 or less for, or $100,000 or less for interagency agreements, or $200,000, I'm sorry, let me do it back. $100,000 or less for contracts, $200,000 or less for interagency agreements. And those are outlined in our rules of procedure. In terms of the budget presentations that we give to the full commission, you'll see that it aligns with the state budgeting process. So July, once the budget is enacted, we'll develop a budget created based on those allocations. We'll do an outline showing our previous year's expenses, any renewals and anticipated expenses. This is similar to the presentation that everybody got from Norma back in July. And then that budget gets approved and adopted by the full commission. So last time we voted to have it move forward from the Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee to the full commission. We looked at it in the full commission meeting in August and adopted the budget. In January is when the governor's proposed budget comes out, and so we'll do a presentation at that January meeting at our January full commission meeting on the budget, the governor's proposed budget for the following fiscal year. And then we'll give a mid-year update on how the commission's budget is faring. And then in May is the governor's May revision, and so we'll do a similar update as well to update based on what's happening in the May revision, and then give an update on our budget as well at that time. Just a little note in terms of for folks wanting to know the difference between grants and contracts. With our grants, the goal is to successfully start up or operate programs, but there's not necessarily guaranteed success, although we will do everything in our power to help achieve a success. And that grantees are obligated to return any unused funds at the end of the grant fund term if they've been allotted those funds ahead of time. For contracts, those are legally binding expectations, typically associated with deliverables. And so payment is provided to the contractor upon successful completion of those deliverables. And so, yeah, that's basically an update on that, the difference between those two. In terms of our current commission grants and contracts, we had a little conversation about this last time. And so on our website right now, we've got the full list of our current grants and contracts available on our website, where we update that regularly. There was some conversation about could we put all of our contracts and grants online, but considering the hundreds that we have and the ADA process, it would be quite a bit of exhaustive staff time to do that, and it would take quite a bit of time to go back and retroactively do that. So what we're thinking is right now, for now, if anybody wants any or has an interest in any particular grant, just send us an email and we can get that to folks. And then what we can do is on a go-forward process, start getting into a routine of posting our future grants and contracts online.
Quick comment, just to, again, make sure that people appreciate what was just said, that if there is a grant or contract that was previously approved under MHSA OAC, and you want to see it, and because it's not displayed online, you send staff an email, they'll get you that information.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. In terms of, let's see, yep, our current grants, there's also a handout. So one of the things that had been talked about in some of our previous Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee meetings was getting a listing of all of our current contracts and grants that we have now, and to provide kind of a update on what the funding amount was and what's been expended. So we have a grants and contracts expenditure list that our team has developed, and it's part of the meeting materials that are posted online. And it reflects all, I'm sorry. And, and commissioners got it in their packets as well, thank you. Commissioners, you shall see them in your packets, so. And again, it's a point-in-time view, and it doesn't include in-progress agreements or grants and contracts that have ended. And so, like I said, I can kind of walk everybody through the components of that, just to, oh, did you have some? Okay, sorry, I thought Commissioner Rella had a question. So just so I can give a tour of that report, for the columns that you'll see, so you'll see a start year, and which is when the fiscal year in which that contract or grant was awarded, the end year, so when that contract or grant is going to end, the fiscal year when that's going to end, the reversion year, so when there's a budget allocation, you hit it for so long, and then at a certain period of time, those funds will revert. Since they're all, right now, I think mostly are all Mental Health Services Act funds for the most part. Those will revert back to the Mental Health Services Fund. Once it's reverted, you can't do anything with it. It's gone. So it's also, we call that liquidation or the expiration date. Oh, question?
Yeah, I think it's useful to have this information, but I think this is where it connects with what the strategic plan is intended to do for us going forward and why that's so important, because most, if not all, of the things in here are sort of closing down our old roles and our old projects, and then looking ahead to the innovation funds that we have. And for me, for one commissioner, much of that needs to be connected not only to innovation per se, but to the task of trying to bring agencies closer together in working together, and therefore improving the quality of delivery of services and access to services, which is different from a contract to do this, that, or the other thing. It's more working within government to prompt collaboration, cooperation. So anyway, that would be my interest in going forward, is to make sure our strategic plan is really evocative of that, because I think we're doing a lot of great things right now, and we've made a lot of progress. But continuing it will really depend on agencies working much more closely together, and I think the governor has prompted a lot of that in the health area, but there's a ways to go.
Additional comment?
Oh, sorry, I was also going to say, just Commissioner Gordon onto that, it's the Innovation Partnership Fund, and all the rest of our allocations are going to switch from MHSA to BHSA, because July 1, 2026, there will be no more MHSA. Everything will be Prop 1 funded. So Commissioner Palmano.
I just wanted to get clarification on the reversion statement over here. So if a grantee requests an extension prior to the reversion year, are they allowed to do that?
We'd have to ask for a reappropriation. Similar like we did with the empath last year.
But they are allowed to ask, and then
And so
you
that-
have to ask.
Yes, and then we would have to go through our budget process to ask for the reappropriation. Yep.
And then that reversion year could also be adjusted, right?
Yep, and then if we get a
Got it.
reappropriation, that'll give us more time on the clock.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Cody, if you want to bring up the next slide. All right, so okay, so that's, and then there's, I think, another slide. Oh, I do it, never mind, sorry. Orientate, thanks, Lauren. Teamwork. Okay, so in terms, okay, so continuing on in terms of the total obligated, that's the amount that was awarded and encumbered, so that's the amount obligated to those contracts and grants. As was mentioned in the August Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee meeting, we try to stagger funding as best as we can to allow grantees as much time as possible, because we just want to avoid situations where funds revert as much as we possibly can. So the next is in terms of the next column in terms of expense, and then that's the amount that has actually been spent, that we have actually expended those funds. Remaining is the balance, and then the progress bar is what's left in the contract to finish, and then, or sorry, I should say the percentage showing kind of how far we've gotten through the grant or the contract. Okay, and that kind of gives you an idea of what might revert. Yeah, Commissioner
So,
Ollett.
quick comment, this is inconsistent with Commissioner Gordon's comment, I think. So it'd be the opinion of two. In the development of our strategic plan, our own internal, and for lack of a better phrase, landscape analysis might be helpful to be incorporated into the strategic plan.
It should be everything we do.
Yes, because as things under MHSA, OAC, the Mental Health Services Act go under the Behavioral Health Services Act, under the OAC, were they effective? What are really the key measurables that determine whether or not it was effective or not? And then the question regarding reversion and unspent funds, that comes up, especially as we transition. And what, if any, flexibility does the commission have as it pertains to that? Should be part of the strategic plan. This is either a unique opportunity from my perspective to really identify what the purpose and impact the commission can have going forward. And I'd hope the strategic plan also reflects that.
Sorry, I'm just taking a little notes real quick. Thank you. All right. All right, so moving along to the future steps. So just some updates on some additional items that we're working on so that the commissioners and our stakeholders are aware. We are working on, we've started putting together an internal project team that's going to help us with some of our grants in particular, and maybe some of our contracts and some strengthening to make sure that we are tracking the outcomes that we want to see with those contracts and grants. And trying to strengthen even our monitoring efforts that we have. Also, just kind of a throwback to some of the conversations that we've had at the last two Budget and Fiscal Advisory Committee meetings in terms of a Tableau dashboard that we've been working on, just to give everybody, commissioners and stakeholders, an idea of how the funding is being broken up. We'll pass it off here to Lauren to give us a update on, or a little demonstration or presentation on the Tableau dashboard. So over to you, Lauren.
Waiting for it to come up. Great, so, yeah. Okay, so one of our budget staff,
Possible,
well,
Lauren, can you enlarge the screen just a little bit for me? Thanks. It's okay, I don't want to delay the presentation.
how about, is that a little,
So maybe say what the blue stuff is.
is that a little better?
Say what blue, yellow, and orange means, and maybe that might help.
So we're doing a demonstration just focusing on the BHSSA, since we kind of discussed it previously, using Tableau, and this was put together by our budget staff, Kate Dvoretsky. So you can see most of the BHSSA is local assistance, that's the dark blue, if you can't see. Admin is 25 million, and the orange represents evaluation. And what's neat about Tableau is you can show down here the allocations and by years, and when you hover over, you get a little bit more of a descriptor. Oh, I can't see all of it because of the, hold on. And down at the bottom, you can see the money that we still have remaining that we have not yet encumbered. When you click on any particular box, then you get additional information. Oh, yeah, you get some additional information. We also worked with Xing, in our research unit to put together the framework for the dashboard. I want to make sure that he gets his credit as well. But we want to do this for all of the funds for transparency. The idea is eventually we'll have this posted, and then people can click on the certain ones and get some more information. So you see I've clicked on evaluation. When I hover over, I can see, okay, we have a contract with West Ed for $5,500,000. And so it's going to help a lot with the transparency and just have a more of an interactive process. It's going to take some time for us to be able to do this for all of our projects. It's in process, but again, it's behind the scenes, working with Tableau, getting all the data. It'll take some time, but it's because of transparency and because of how neat we all think it is. We are working on it. And if anyone wants me to click on anything, or if you have any questions about this demo, not fully done thing, let me know.
Just thank you, because Tableau is a great tool, and I think the public should have access to all this. So thank you for that initiative.
I just wanted to add too, it's just a nice visual representation of how the money gets allocated. You can see, I know when I was looking at these, just seeing how much goes out in local assistance versus what's kept in admin and eval, and then having that fiscal year breakdown to see what's being allocated across the different years. It's a nice little nifty tool.
And so you can see the back end. Here's the table. Look at all the details. So this is just for the one. Sorry, Kate wanted me to make sure to show this. What's behind or under the hood.
Very few of the public deals with data as easily as visual. So this is excellent. I might add, we might want to look at more breakouts over time. Let's get it up. But for example, I would love to see the representation of PEI versus other categories as so we better understand that look into our investments.
Making this public is our goal.
Yeah, I would concur with that, and it might be also good, since virtually all of these grants are going to public school agencies, to do a crosswalk into the CYBHI, the governor's initiative, with the understanding, and this is something that I think speaks to this issue of intergovernmental cooperation, speaks to the fact that those two efforts, as we know, are ending. They're short term, so they will end, and whatever has happened as a result of them is more than likely to end unless there's some successor project or program or bonding of agencies in a different way, and that's what I think the next challenge is, because the other program that is ending is the California Community Schools Initiative, which is a multi-billion-dollar initiative, which also ends in the early part of 3031, which also is affecting schools in the same way, looking at innovation and transformation. So,
Did we have anybody online? Okay. Oh, Commissioner Pomano.
I just have a question. Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I know nothing about Tableau. In fact, this is the first time I'm seeing something like this, and that's helpful. On that evaluation piece, is this technology able to link us to that evaluation when it's done, so that if, for example, you link on evaluation, it'll give you the link also for the actual?
Not
Or
to
is
my
that not a feature under this technology?
It's not a feature under this technology to my
Okay.
knowledge.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Are there any other commissioner comments in the room or online? This is going to garner a lot of attention.
Good.
Say a big, again, shout.
I geek out over this stuff. I'm really excited. I want people to be
I
excited.
think
I
she
want
saw
us
a
to work
picture
on
up there,
it.
your picture. Your picture came on this. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
No, a big thank you to Norma, Lauren, Kate, Shing, who have done an amazing job pulling this all together. So thank you all.
Wonderful, wonderful work, and really a huge step forward around transparency. And I'll let you go. I don't know if you want to make any additional comments, Brendan, before we go
No,
to.
I think that concludes our presentation, right? Are we done here? So, yeah, that concludes our presentation today. So, really, thank you, everybody, for the great discussion.
The public comment, we're going to transition out of public comment, so if you all will stay at the table for a moment. Cody?
All right, thank you. At this time, members of the public may request to make a public comment on this agenda item by clicking the raise hand button on your computer or the app, or if calling in by phone, by pushing *9. If you are in person, please make sure you have turned in your public comment card to staff at the table. We'll begin with in-room comments. There are two, and the first one is Tiffany Murphy. Please head to the podium.
It's still the morning, right? Good morning. Yes. All right. Good morning. Tiffany Murphy. I am the Chief Operations Officer with Mental Health America of California. Grateful to join the team. I just want to bring up two quick sentiments. One is a notion of correction or request for correction, and another is just an idea. In the meeting packet that you all have, for today, the materials packet, there is a section that breaks down all of the local assistance funding for the grants and contracts expenditure list. Under advocacy year 2023, our organization is listed, Mental Health America of California, and I just want to draw your attention to the advocacy column. The name of the advocacy column for the contract is actually incorrect. Mental Health America of California holds the LGBTQIA plus contract, and right now it's noted as it's the diverse communities contract. So I just wanted to make sure that we cleared that up. Additionally, the recommendation or question is, on this particular document, is there an opportunity to continuously have the revision date so that people understand the progress that these contracts are making with their expenses in real time, or if this is, post, et cetera. Just hoping that we have that. I see it is on the first page that the information was updated August 27th, so thank you very much for that. Just wanted to offer or inquire if that's going to be an ongoing offer to the public as well. Perfect. Aside from that, thank you so much for all the transparency. This is amazing. I think that this also is very much so a reflection that the commission and committees have been listening to the public, respective to being able to see what work is being done. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Tiffany. And the next public comment in room is Stacy Hiramoto.
Thank you, Cody. This is Stacy Hiramoto with REMCO, the Racial and Ethnic Mental Health Disparities Coalition. And once again, really want to compliment the staff and the commission for doing more for transparency. The instruments and all this information is really excellent. I did want to point out one of the contracts, and I'm only doing this because our organization and the CRDP are so interested in innovation. If you look on your page 26 under the Legislative and External Affairs, under Department Operation Funding, but it's on page 26 of your handout, there's a contract for University of the Pacific for $500,000 or $500,000. This was not put out for competitive bid, and when I looked, it says approved at the 4/25/24 CBH meeting. I went to those materials, and I'm only bringing this up because I don't think this is going to happen again, but I want to bring this up for the new commissioners so you can see how wonderful it is that the commission, as I said at the beginning of the last commission meeting, it's a new day, but you need to see these kinds of things. So this amount for $500,000, there is nothing in the materials given to the public beforehand, and I had others help me look for that $500,000, and there is no mention of UOP. So, and again, nothing against UOP. Maybe this is great, but then I went into the minutes of the meeting to look for where this may have come, And in the minutes, there is no mention of UOP. There is a mention of unspent $500,000 in innovation funding that was supposed to be for planning or something. Anyway, I just want to bring this up, and I don't know what's going on with this contract, because I know you gave one to another sole source to the one that Mr. Marco Magic was a part of. But this, again, was not competitive, and I don't know how this happened. And I'm only bringing this up not to embarrass, because I did try to talk to staff briefly before, but I just want the commissioners, the new commissioners, to know what kinds of things went on before this new transparency. And again, I want to thank the commission and the staff for their new transparency. But I just wondered if anybody knew what was going on with this contract. Thank you.
I would be happy to clarify that because there was complete transparency on that contract. That was originally a contract that I requested for the commission to launch an entire initiative. It was really the original initiative around the innovation strategic planning process, and initially we'd envisioned a conference, and this is reflected throughout the several years of notes, that we decided that would not make sense to spend the money that way and that early, so we instead committed to an exploratory process, and we're still reserving those monies for the strategic plan of that innovation fund, and part of that was spent by UOP doing public engagement activities and some level of strategic planning, but it's not even the intention for UOP itself to necessarily spend all that money, but we had to assign that contract somewhere, so we assigned it to UOP somewhere in the middle of the process, but it was all approved by the commission, and we've been reporting, and I've been reporting on its status of it over the last 2 years or so since we originally authorized that funding, but we've been trying to be judicious with it and not spend it, in a wasteful way, but to be very careful with that money. Thank you.
Cody, are there additional public comment?
That is the end of
I
in-room
see a
public
hand.
comment,
Oh.
and there is, yes, one online from Laurel. Laurel, I've asked you to unmute. Go ahead.
Good morning. I apologize. I had a technical issue. I had my hand raised before. I'm Laurel Ben Hamida. I'm with Muslim American Society Social Services Foundation and REMCO, the Reducing Mental Health Disparities Coalition. I'm going to speak to a little bit of what I would have said when my technical problems started, and it's also relevant to this item. I'm glad that you decided not to go ahead with the $250,000, and that will be further discussed. I think there's a sort of attention in the world and attention in the room between those who may feel that, well, let me put it this way: not all for-profit is bad, and not all nonprofit is good. Things happen in both, but for the benefit of the people we help, I think that we need to work through some of these things and work on good intentions and transparency to keep the work clean and not start out with stereotypes about nonprofit or for-profit. That is sort of the background of what I see going on in this commission, and I hope going forward, public-private partnerships can be discussed without stereotypes harming the discussion and ultimately harming the people we help. A lot of nonprofits are finding out these days the government is not the end all and be all of resources, and that's suddenly dried up And they're really having to open their eyes and look at for-profit entities, as well as philanthropic entities, where profit passes through in a nonprofit way in order to survive. So those are some thoughts that I had about this, and I hope that will help in the discussion going forward. About the leadership training, I wanted to say that it seems to me that a lot of CBOs could do leadership training, and they're very hungry right now, and they're very skilled, and they could give leadership training to the management of CBH, especially in doing outreach and managing relationships with diverse communities. So thank you.
And that was the last public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, and seeing no other commissioner or public comments or questions, I'd like to thank you for your attention and engagement during today's presentation. Let's move to the next and final agenda item. Thank you again, commissioners. It is good to see you all in room and online. I always appreciate that. And a heartfelt thank you to all of the members of the public and our staff who provided very thoughtful and, quite frankly, thought-provoking presentations. We expect to convene again on November the 20th. That's November the 20th. Please monitor our website and sign up for email updates to stay informed about upcoming meetings and opportunities to get involved. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn, as I think I need to do. I don't. Oh, we will now adjourn our meeting. Thank you so much, Sandra. her vigorous, no. Look forward to continuing our discussions and commission initiatives at our next meeting. Thanks so much. Good day and have a wonderful rest of your day.